the Illustrator interface. Right here I just simply opened AI, Adobe Illustrator. I'm going to create a new file or open a new file. So I'm going to do File, oops, sorry, I need to get out of here. File, New, and you're just going to go with the default settings, except with orientation. We are going to choose landscape if it's not already chosen. It's better if you're working on a screen like this that's more landscape format anyways. Then simply click Create. And here we are. I have a brand new clean artboard. The first thing I would always like you to do is to reset Essentials. So you're going to go up here, you're going to go Essentials, Reset Essentials, and this is going to put the palettes and workspaces back so that you're looking at the same workspace as I'm looking at right here. Okay, we're going to just get a sense of what this space is all about. So right up here, this is the palettes panel. You can expand various palettes by clicking these arrows. You can also click on the icons in this toolbar on the right, and you can see the different tools under each palette. So for example, this is the color palette, color guides, color themes. To close it, I click those double arrows. So there are tabs that you can see as well if you go through all of the content, color themes. This is for your brushes and your swatches, so different brush sizes, different symbols if you would like to use those. You can also, if you open up layers, for example, right here, you can also grab right here and drag this right off the dock. This is good for bringing up palettes that you're going to use a lot. And then when you're ready to redock them, you grab up here, and as soon as it turns blue, you know it's going to drop it back into the main palette bar that you see here. On the left-hand side, you have your Tools panel, and just like the Palettes panel, you can click and drag it wherever on your workspace you wish, and you can collapse it. So you can see it in one row or two simply by toggling these double arrows. Put it right back there. I prefer it double like this so I can see them all. If you do this, then they kind of disappear off the workspace. Then you can also see right here we have this white artboard, and Command and the number 1 will get you to 100% view. You can see up here that we're viewing it at 100%. Command plus makes it larger, and you can see now we're at 200%. Command minus makes it smaller. I like to work somewhere around 150 in this instance. Right here are your color swatches. This is your color fill, so we can double click on there and choose any color we wish. This is your stroke. This would be the outline color, and again you can double click and change any stroke color you wish. Right now I'm going to draw a rectangle and change the fill color so you can see how the rectangle changes if it's selected and you choose new fill color. So I'm going to go up here, I'm going to click and hold, choose the rectangle tool, and if I do this you can see that I have a green fill and a pinkish, if I Command 1, you can see a pinkish stroke color just like it's indicated here in the swatches. If I double click the fill and I choose a new color, it's going to change the color of my rectangle because right now my rectangle is still selected. You can see that through the bounding box around the edge. I can do the same thing with the stroke, double click while the rectangle is selected and change the stroke color. You can also see up here in this right here you get a sub-tool menu, and this changes depending on the tool that you have selected. So you can see if I click the text tool, I'm going to get different options up here than if I go back to the rectangle tool. So right here what I have with the rectangle is a vector graphic. I can duplicate this. There's a bunch of ways to do everything in Illustrator and Photoshop, as you'll see. While this is selected, I can go Edit, Copy, Edit, Paste. Oh, Sorry about that. I'm going to go up here. I'm going to go edit, edit, paste. For some reason that's not working. Edit, copy, edit, paste. Should be working, but there's another way I can do this. I can hold down Alt, and with my selection tool right here selected, you can see I get a double arrow with my cursor. While I hold down Alt, I simply drag duplicate copies, so I can make as many as I want if I drag away from my selection. So I have 3 copies of this rectangle. I'm going to select each of these and change them slightly. If I click off, right now I have nothing selected, so I can go over here, I can double click my swatches and try and change it to blue, but nothing changes here because I don't actually have anything selected. You need to identify which shape and graphic you want to have changed for Adobe. It did change the swatches right here, but it didn't actually change my rectangle color. So I'm going to click on one of these rectangles, and I'm going to double click here and make it a green color. You can see it changes. I'm going to click on another one and I'm going to make it light blue. And I'm going to leave this last one this pinky red color. Now these rectangles are ordered in the layer that I made them. If I take the layers panel right here, click on layers and expand this arrow, you can see that I have made extra copies of things here, but I've got the green at the top, I've got the blue at the in the middle because that was second, and I've got the red last. Let's just get rid of some of these so we don't get confused. I've selected them. I'm going to drag them to the garbage. So you can see green is first right here. Then I made my blue. Then I made my pinky red. So these are ordered in the order that I made them. Now, if I go and make yet another rectangle, let's make it orange this time. I'm going to change my fill, and I'm going to go back up here and select the rectangle, and I'm going to draw my rectangle right here. And now you can see that the most recent vector graphic, the orange rectangle that I made, is now at the top of the layer stack. So we can change these rectangles. Just going to go up here, choose my selection tool, and click off. So now I have nothing selected. We can change the order by choosing this selection tool, and let's go to the green rectangle, for example, click on it to select it, and I can right click and I can say arrange, bring forward, and you can see it brought it to the top of the stack here. But imagine I've got 100 different pieces of my graphics and I want to bring one to the front to edit it. I don't want to have to copy and paste. I don't want to have to move the position of my pieces. All I want to do is just move one within here. So I can either right click, arrange, bring to front, or I can bring forward. So now I can right click, arrange, bring to front, which I've already done. Right click, arrange, bring to front. So now you can see that's brought the orange to the top of the layer stack. So if you're familiar with Photoshop, you know that there's something called layers, and that's this panel I've got open right here. I'm just going to collapse this so you can see that actually all of these different rectangles are on layer 1. I can make a new layer and put things on top of my rectangle. So I go down here, you can see that's create new layer. I've just created layer 2 now. Now I'm going to make a circle, and I'm going to make this circle, I'm just going to click off so I don't change the color here. I'm going to make the circle brown, and I'm going to click and hold on the rectangular marquee, and hidden behind that is going to be my ellipse tool. If I draw this circle, I want it to be a proper circle, so I'm going to hold down Shift as I draw the circle. You can see that the circle is in front of or on top of all of my rectangles. You can see it here, and you can also see it in the layers panel. It's in the uppermost layer. So I'm also going to just show you here how to make these thumbnails larger. So right click, panel options, and I want to go to the large thumbnail so we can all see this very well. So my brown circle is on top of all of my rectangles. I can, if I go back and click on Make Active Layer 1, I can bring the red box forward within this layer by right-clicking Arrange and Bring to Front. I can have, if I expand here, I can have my rectangle, let's see here, right-click, Arrange, Bring to Front. I can make my rectangle on the top of the stacking within layer 1, but it won't go any further. It's not going to go over top of the brown circle because the brown circle is on a higher layer. So I can rearrange my graphics within a layer, but I can't bring graphics in front of other graphics that are on a higher layer. Layer 2 is physically in front of layer 1, so I cannot make any of these above my brown circle. To bring the red rectangle in front of my brown circle, I'd have to rearrange the order of my layers in the layer panel itself. So I'm going to collapse this for simplicity. I'm going to click and drag layer 2 below layer 1. And now you can actually see the brown circle is physically below my rectangles. If I want the brown circle to be in between the orange and the red, how would I do that? Right now the brown circle is at the back because it's on the bottommost layer. It's on the bottommost layer. Two ways I can do this. I can highlight, I can edit, cut. Oh, I'm sorry. Command Z to undo. I'm going to click on layer 2, make sure my selection tool is active. Click on my brown circle. Now when I go edit, cut, then I can go make this active, edit, paste, and now my brown circle is physically part of layer 1. This brown circle is at the very top of the squares now. I can either, with it selected, hold down Command, left square bracket to make it go down the stacking order and behind the rectangles. Or if I Command Z, Command Z, Command Z, Command Z, I'm back to where I started. Or I can right click, Arrange, Send Backward, and you can see it's now tucked away behind the red square. This will put the brown circle on the same layer, snuggled in between, and I can move it anywhere that I want. I could move it over here, and I could tuck it in between the green and the blue so that it's partially hidden if I want. So I can do whatever I need to do within this layer now because this brown circle is actually part of the layer with the rectangles. A couple of other things while I have this selected. Let's work with this red square because it's the easiest to see. You can see up here that I can change my fill color if I want. I can also bump up my stroke. Right now I do have a stroke, so let's make it orange so you can see it. The default is 1 pixel point, but if I wanted, I could go and make it as large, as thick or wide as I wanted. So I can bump up the pixel points to give my rectangle a thicker stroke here. Of course, you need to have it selected as you're working on it so you can tell Illustrator which vector graphic it is that you actually want to alter. I'm going to drag this back and redock it. Turns blue. It's now back in the dock. Now, let's practice making a Homer eye like Homer Simpson. I'm going to select my selection tool. I'm going to drag across the entire artboard so all of my graphics are selected and hit delete. So when you're making something, you have to think of each piece as being made up of, each piece being made up of cardboard cutouts. Each selection has to be a complete shape, as in a cardboard cutout that you are making. So I'm going to go back over here to my tools panel. I'm going to click this icon to get the default fill and stroke. and I'm going to click these arrows to flip it. So now I have a black fill. I don't want the stroke, so I'm going to click the stroke and turn it off. And I'm going to make sure that my ellipse tool is selected. I want to make a perfectly round black circle. So I'm going to hold down Shift as I make this circle. Let go of my mouse first, then the keyboard button. I'm going to choose the selection tool and click off so I have nothing selected. Now I'm going to flip these. Actually, I'm going to go back to the default. I'm going to turn off my stroke. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to hold down Shift while I make my white circle with no stroke, and I'm going to put it in front of the black circle. So holding down Shift, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to go back and choose my ellipse tool. Now, I am holding down Shift as I make Command Z. I have to go back right here. Command Z. Okay, click off. You can see what's happening if you are not careful. So I had to click off of my circle so it's no longer selected. Now I'm going to go to my ellipse tool. I'm going to go back to my default. So now I'm going to have my white circle. Click on my stroke, turn it off. Now I'm ready to make my perfectly round white circle by holding down Shift. Let go of the mouse first. Now I'm going to go up here, choose my selection tool, and now I can drag my white circle on top of my black circle, click off so that I have nothing selected. Now I have Homer's eye with the outline. All I need now is the black circle for the pupil. So default colors, flip-flop them, so now black is my pupil default. I'm going to turn off the stroke. I'm going to select the ellipse tool. I'm going to hold down Shift as I make the pupil, release the mouse first, then Shift. I'm going to choose the selection tool and position this pupil in the center. Click off. There you have it. This is Homer's eye. Now, each of these are separate pieces. So, notice I've included a white circle on top of the black circle. I can drag this off to give you a sense of what that looks like. Command Z to undo. You're probably thinking, why don't you just draw a white circle with a black stroke? Something like this. Oh, choose the ellipse. Something like this. And if I bump up the stroke, you can see I could get the same effect. The problem with this is I want you to think about everything as though they're separate elements. I've got this pupil, I've got the white part, and I've got the black outline. And I can manipulate each of those. It's just easier to stay organized if you have a circle on top of a circle on top of a circle. So we're not going to be doing things like this. Now, I want to group this eye. Right now, if I pick up the pupil and I drag it off, or if I wanted to move the eye, let's say, and I pick up the pupil, I'm only moving the pupil. Command Z, Command Z, Command Z, Command Z to get where I left off. Instead, I'm going to drag a selection over my entire eye to select it. I'm going to right click and I'm going to group. Now, this is one item. If I move it, if I pick up any part of the eye, the pupil, the white part, or the black outline, and I move it, I move the whole thing. So you can have groups within groups within groups if you want to. I'm going to give you the rest of today's class to play around with this stuff and experiment with what you just learned. Thank you.